I've been the director here for Hanover Tavern Foundation for almost 9 years. As soon as I came to the tavern, I began to hear stories from staff members, people that had lived here, people that had worked here in the past, about paranormal occurrences. And at first I didn't take it serious. But once we had some occurrences that happened to my family members, then I began to take it serious. And I said, at that point, it's time for us to find somebody to help investigate the tavern to find out what's going on here. So after talking to some other historical sites, I found Steve Dills at Transcend Paranormal, and he came in and we talked, and immediately I knew he was the right guy with the right team and the right approach. Soon after that, we interviewed folks right here at the tavern, people that had actually lived here and worked here for many years, and began to identify the areas that were hot.
So when Transcend first came in, we started the interview process. We brought in a number of guests as well as foundation staff, both past staff and current staff, and found out some of the paranormal experiences that they too had going on here in the building. That led to a number of private investigations here at the tavern, which actually rolled into bringing in the jail and the courthouse. And then we thought that it would be a really cool fundraising opportunity to bring other folks in, the public, and let them come in and experience some of the things that we've had here as well. That led our team to actually reaching out to the Commonwealth researchers of the paranormal, Dennis, and this is where we are today. So we've been here for about 6 years investigating on and off both public and private investigations, as well as a number of our ghost walks and various events.
Once he brought my team, Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal, or CROP, in, the goal was we would be able to work together. We would be able to fill in the spaces in the large structure that we have here, along with the outbuildings that we also investigate. The enormity of the location itself requires more than any standard one team. And that was where the experience of my investigators on my team came in. And we've been able to fill that void, and we've been able to investigate. There's 4 buildings off property that aren't part of Hanover Tavern. Numerous pieces of activity in all locations. So I think all together with the foundation's help, with Transcend and Crop working together, I think we've put together a fantastic location for investigations. We've got some great evidence for you. Numerous personal stories, numerous public stories, and some pretty good evidence that we're going to share with you.
Well, we're in Hanover Tavern. There's been a tavern here on the property since around 1735. The existing tavern that we have today, we're in the earliest part right now, and it dates to 1791. And it was built as the tavern owner's home. And it was built adjacent to the original tavern, which, as I mentioned, was 1735. Around 1820, they built a new tavern to the south of us. And at that point, once that was built, they tore the original tavern down. So imagine 2 buildings, the tavern owner's home and the new tavern. Around 10 years later, in the 1830s, a section was built to tie the 2 together. We call it a hyphen or a connector. Soon after that, the porches were added that have given the tavern its unique look, both on the front and the back. But the tavern has always been here to serve those who came for court day. Court met once a month, and people came from far distances, and they needed a place to spend the night and get something to eat. So the tavern was here for that purpose. Across the street from the tavern is the courthouse. It was built around 1740 or so. It's the third oldest continuous use courthouse in America. On the courthouse green is the stone jail, built around 1840. It was built to replace a frame structure that had burned to the ground. On the other side is the clerk of the courts building, a brick building built around 1840 as well. It's very unique to find this courthouse green still in effect today, with the courthouse, the jail, the clerk of the courts building, and the tavern that was built to serve those needs.
My name's Tiffany and I'm an investigator with Transcend Paranormal. We're here in the arch room, and one of the first flashlight sessions here that I did, we were asking if we were talking to someone that either worked in the bar, resided in the tavern, or was just one of the visitors. Well, we got an intelligent answer when we asked if it was someone who resided in the tavern, and we also asked if it was someone that resided here in the tavern during the Civil War. And the flashlight turned on saying yes, that they resided here in the tavern during the Civil War and that they were a female. So it'd be nice to figure out who we were actually talking to.
I've worked here at Hanover Tavern for almost 9 years, and I've experienced some interesting paranormal things. But I guess the one that really sticks out in my mind happened right here in the arch room a number of years ago. Every spring we do a field trip program for fourth graders, and I was the only person in the building here early one morning. I was actually in my costume, and I was actually practicing my lines just about here where I'm standing now. And all of a sudden I had that feeling that somebody was standing behind me. And as I turned, out of the corner of my eye, standing right here beside that door frame, was a person, a man, in a brown colonial outfit. And as soon as I turned all the way around and could focus completely, he was gone. And that's the first and only time that I've actually seen an apparition here at Hanover Tavern.
Right behind us is the Washington room. Before we ever had our first investigation here, we came here and interviewed current workers, past workers, and people who resided here in the tavern. When we interviewed a lady who used to live here, she recalled an event where the Washington room actually caught fire. So naturally, during our first investigation, we asked the spirits if they remember when the Washington room caught fire. When we listened to our recorders, we got a very audible, "It was me," when we asked that question. Now, records show that the fire was caused by faulty electrical equipment. Now, here's some thought for you guys. Do you think it was actually supernatural, or do you think it was actually faulty electrical equipment?
I'm sitting in the bride's room here at Hanover Tavern. We're in the oldest section of the building, and this is one of the scenes of one of the first flashlight experiences we had here while doing investigations. This room was full, maybe 6 or 7 people, and we were kind of going around the room asking questions, and we had the flashlights out, and when it became my turn to talk, I simply said, "I come to the tavern to work every day. If you recognize me, would you please turn on the light?" And to everyone's amazement here in the room, the light came on and made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And then I said, "Could you turn it off?" And immediately the light went off. And so this is always going to be something I remember because it was one of our first flashlight experiences here at the tavern.
Hi, my name is Tom. I worked at Hanover Tavern on the foundation staff for 2 years, and I didn't have many paranormal experiences. The most significant was during a public investigation when we were doing a flashlight session. And the belief is that spirits can use their energy to turn on the flashlight to answer questions. We were asking questions and the light was going on, and finally I asked if the spirit recognized who I was, because I spent so much of my time there at work, and the light came on immediately. So we believe that was an affirmative.
Hello, my name is Patty Deal. I am married to David Deal, who's the executive director here at Hanover Tavern. I'm standing in the foyer, which is located in the main entrance of Hanover Tavern. And this is where I was about 5 years ago. I was standing in this exact spot. My husband David was having a wine tasting meeting, and I was taking the tickets. They were going into this room here. So there was about 50 people in here with David and some people demonstrating wine tasting. And it was very quiet. A lady was speaking, and I was standing in this position, and my daughter was standing in front of me over here. And all of a sudden, I felt someone tap me on the shoulder and run their hand down my back. Of course, I turned around and nobody was there, and I looked at my daughter and I said, "Katie, how did you do that?" And she said, "Do what?" And I said, "How did you touch me on my back?" And she said, "I didn't touch you." And I said, "Well, somebody just touched me." And she was like, "Mom, I don't know about that." And I said, "Well, they did." And at that point, David called me to go into the wine tasting room, and Katie stayed here. I went around in through the veranda and came into the wine tasting. And Katie decided to go over here into the foyer and sit down on this step. As she sat down on the step, she turned around and she saw a black figure. And when she examined the black figure, she decided that it was a lady in black in a huge hoop skirt. Well, of course, that scared her half to death. She ran through the veranda and into the wine tasting and said, "Mom, come here." So I came with her, and she said, "As soon as you left, I sat down over there and I saw a figure, and she was walking that direction after she turned and smiled at me, and she was wearing a hoop skirt and it was black, and she turned around and she went through there." So that is my Hanover Tavern ghost story, and that is how all of this began. I told it to David, and he said, "You know, I've heard these stories before." He said, "Let's ask some other people their stories and see if they've ever seen a lady in black." We met Steve Dills, and from that point on, some people have seen the lady in black.
How many people are with us? Is that someone walking? Was that you just moving?
I didn't.
Anyone shift? What's going on?
I did. I don't know if it was coming from me though.
No, it would be over there in the doorway.
So my name is Dennis. I'm the founder of Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal. And the tale that I'm going to share with you involves this exact staircase. We were finishing up a public investigation when myself and David Deal, the executive director for Hanover Tavern Foundation, were on the far side of the building, and some of my team members were on this side picking up gear as they went through. Upon turning this corner, they ran into a very strong scent of sewer gas or just a real pungent odor. They immediately hollered for me. Typically, if you smell sulfur during an investigation, lore and history says that it is something of a darker nature. We've never encountered that here before, so that night was a first. After David and myself came up here, I turned this corner and myself, my investigators were standing over here, and I picked up the same exact smell. At that point, I started up the staircase, and if you'll follow me, I'll give you the tour of what I did exactly. So as I went all the way up the staircase, they got stronger and stronger as we got higher up the steps. I have two investigators downstairs, David following me as well. When I got here, it dissipated for a moment, and then I took a few more steps up and I landed on this upper landing here in the hallway. Now, from this point, you have, off to this side is the bride's room. There's a wardrobe room over here for folks from the theater, and a couple of bathrooms. The smell was rather strong through here, but I continued to walk just to see. And if you'll follow me, we'll take the rest of the path that I did that night. So I turned this corner and headed down this hallway here. So once I turned the corner from the main second floor landing to this hallway, the smell was still here. So I followed the smell all the way down. And one of the strange things to note, as I walked by this office, I got an extremely cold chill on the whole right side of me. But the smell continued, so I went on around the corner here. Now this goes to another office. There's a heating and ventilation room here. And I hit this landing and the smell pretty much dissipated, but it goes to a back staircase that we've had numerous reports of activity. Typically it smells of pipe tobacco or just an ominous feeling. The back staircase isn't liked very much. But about the time I got here, I can hear my investigators still behind me make the statement, "Wow, it's very cold right here." I immediately hollered, "Are you right outside that office door?" To which they answered, "Yes." I told them, "Stay there." So I turned around and went back. So this is the door that they said it was very cold in front of. So when I got back here, I immediately pulled out a voice recorder and held it right here at the door jamb. I knocked on the door and said, "Is there anybody in there?" Now, knowing the individual who worked in this office was gone for probably 2 to 3 hours at that point in time, I expected no response. But I did get a response. I asked, "Who's in there?" and the response back was, "It's Tom." Very plain, very matter of fact. Lo and behold, it was a gentleman named Tom that works in this office, but had been gone for 2 or 3 hours. So the question comes, was it spirit named Tom? Or did they just want me to leave them alone? So they said it's Tom, assuming I would think nobody is in there except a worker doing their business. That's for you to figure out.
My name is Rhonda. I am with Transcend Paranormal, and my one very vivid memory of this place, which is the theater, is me and our investigator, her name was Dorothy, and we were having a ghost box session up here, and we really didn't hear anything at first, and we heard a little boy come through. His name was Michael, and we both said hello to Michael, and that's all we heard on the ghost box. But we were recording that session, and then we go home, and I uploaded that session, and you heard me say hello to Michael. Everybody heard Michael, but what we did not hear in the theater was a woman screaming at the top of her lungs to get her out of here. It was get me out of here, but it wasn't cut through the ghost box. It was using the energy from the ghost box, and she was talking over the ghost box.
Hi, baby. Come here. Come here. Come here.
And that's my one memory of this place. And it was pretty good.
You can feel safe with me, you can play. But it must be them.
Who what?
You heard that, right?
What?
The voices.
No. Did you hear any voices, Dave?
No, I did not.
Are you playing? Are you playing with me?
If that's you, can you cut one of those lights on?
Uh-huh.
To the right, I'm seeing something to the right.
Yep.
So am I. Yeah, I saw it to the right, I'm looking where I'm looking straight at it.
Yep.
Check where is it?
Oh, he just moved. He peeked around, or she. It's like moved to the, like, it would be.
Check where is it? Check where is it?
My name is Steve Dills. I'm the director of Transcend Paranormal, and we are in the Old Stone Jail. This is one of the most active locations here at the Hanover County Complex. Every single time we've stepped foot into this building, we've actually recorded some proof of the paranormal. On one particular investigation, we were all sitting upstairs in one of the jail rooms, and we recorded the sound of a male stating, "Mind your head." Now, this recording was coming out of the warden and guards room, which was right next door. Immediately after that, we recorded the sound of footsteps, starting directly outside of that room, coming down the hallway on the second floor, turning, and coming down the steps. The interesting thing about this is that all of our investigators were sitting, we weren't walking, we weren't talking, moving, or making any sorts of noises or sounds. In fact, we had the entire thing on video and audio, so we could prove without a doubt that it was not one of us that was making any of those noises. You touch this one, light it up.
None of it's gonna hurt you.
Another time here in the jail, we actually recorded the sound of somebody whistling, and it was audible, so it was an audible voice phenomenon. And it was actually in the stairwell, which is directly outside of this room. I was standing upstairs, and one of my fellow investigators was down here in this room, the first jail cell that you entered the building, and we started to hear somebody whistling in the hallway. So I yelled down to her and I said, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you whistling?" And she yelled up and she said, "I'm not whistling. Why are you whistling?" And we're not really sure why, but somebody was carrying on a tune right in the hallway right in the stairs right between us.
It's just my left leg. Did you do that? It's just my left leg. Did you do that?
I don't know why it's elevated like that. I don't know why it's elevated like that.
The government.
Give you ice.
I appreciate it.
No problem. Gotta go find Zach now.
My name is Dennis. I'm the founder of Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal.
And I'm Ryan, I'm co-founder of Commonwealth Researchers of the Paranormal.
And we're going to share with you our story of walking into the original Hanover County Courthouse. As soon as we opened the door, both of us could hear what sounded like two males in heavy conversation coming from what we believe to be the jury room to the left as you enter the door. What was your take on it?
Well, first I thought my phone had cut on, so I checked it out, and it wasn't cut on. And then I figured, well, maybe my recorder had cut on. So I checked that, and it hadn't cut on either.
So this was an audible, loud enough conversation, what we call an AVP, audible voice phenomenon. Followed that up with, we separated to the jury room on this side and the judge chambers on that side. I went into the jury room, Ryan went to the judge's chambers. Both of us, the doors are heavy enough you can't hear one another. As soon as I sat down in the jury room, nothing but a voice recorder, I made the comment that, well, I'm in here by myself, and the voice that I captured on the recorder commented back, no, you're not.
And then towards the end of our investigation, we started getting into a little bit of an argument because I wasn't sure what time we were supposed to be heading back across the street to the tavern, and we were talking about what time we were supposed to be heading back, and while we were arguing, you hear in the background this distinct sound of a gavel hitting that table up there. So I think the judge thought we were being disrespectful to the courtroom, and he wanted us to pretty much shut up.
And we've got 3 distinct taps of the gavel. Neither one of us heard it, neither one of us responded. But it did let us know in the review that they're here with us, and they do want us to know they're here.
Turn it off. I have another question. A minute ago.
Whoa, hold on. Is there a whisper?
Turn it off. I have another question. A minute ago.
Whoa, hold on. Is there a whisper?
Are you the soldier that I spoke to that was, thank you. I thought that might be. Can you cut that flashlight completely off for me? This is just the way it was too, solid hits on and off. Sir, if that was you, can you please turn the light on to acknowledge that we have spoken before? Thank you. That's a different flashlight. Thank you very much. Can you turn both? Thank you.
That was me.
Now, sir, can you turn both of those flashlights off and let's try to determine a yes, no? Can you turn the other one off as well? Turn the other one off as well, sir. Thank you. Off for me, please, sir. I'll wait for your response.
Do you know Thornton? Or Homie?
Maybe I was saying yes to both.
Video. Do you know Thornton? Or Homie? Do you know